Nebraska's Match Basics. This presentation will provide general information related to creating your AmeriCorps budget and understanding program matching requirements and regulations. Looking at the overall match requirements, you'll see that match is a required regulation. It can be found in 45 CFR 2521.60A. Overall, you'll start in year 1 at a 24%, and as your program matures to year 10, you'll go to 50% or a dollar for dollar match. Again, the regulations require the match so that that's a required part of your program. And again, it escalates overall. It's important that you look that the match can come from a mix of sources: cash, in-kind, program income. It can vary from year to year. The match does not have to be the same. Again, take a look at 2 CFR 200.306. That is the uniform guidance section of the matching requirements so that you fully understand what's required with when you're matching federal funds. Where does match come from? Match can come from many different sources, and we'll go through more detail in each of these. Match can come from program income, which are funds that you earn as part of your program operations. It can come from in-kind donations. These are non-cash donations that you might receive from other programs, from community members, or businesses in your area. It could come from grants and contributions. Some programs write proposals to other programs, to other funders to support the match and outline the similar program. You could also choose to use unrestricted funds. These are funds that the grantee might earn from general operations or a potential event, something unrestricted that you choose to support AmeriCorps. Note that the match must be reasonable, necessary, allowable for the program operations. Again, the match requirements are the same set of regulations when we talk about the rules and regulations and applicable to all the restrictions that the federal funds are restricted. Looking at acceptable match, as I said, I suggest you all take a look at the full information found in 200.306, but this is what defines acceptable match, and that what is match can be as part of your program. Again, there's 7 requirements to this. 1, that it's verifiable from your grantee records. That means even if you use in-kind, it must be documented with an in-kind letter or voucher or form. It cannot be included as a contribution for another federal award. You need to make sure that you're not double counting match. It needs to be reasonable and necessary to accomplish the program goals and objectives. It needs to be allowable under the cost principles. Again, that's a piece of the uniform guidance that we'll talk about further in another session. It cannot be paid for by the federal government unless it's allowed by that other federal agency. It must be provided for in your approved budget and conform to all of the uniform grant guidance, as I stated. So that there's a lot of requirements that you want to be aware of, and you want to go into looking at your match as knowledgeable as you can. Looking at in-kind contributions. This is also often a really good way to help meet the match. You just want to make sure that you're getting the documentation that's required. So again, looking at setting the value of a donation, setting the value is always made by the donor. Again, you don't want to get between someone and the IRS. It could be tax deductible for that person. Your responsibility of the program is to verify that value and look at that value and use a reasonable value that can be supported in your financial statement. So is the value reasonable, necessary, and allowable? Is it within fair market value or a rental price that you might have in the same geographic area? Is it what you would pay for if you had to pay for these services? The IRS has also considerations for this and looking at making sure that certain items that you have over $5,000, you obtain a appraisal of that donation. Again, it's important to make sure that it is documented. Looking at documenting in-kind contributions, you want to make sure that you include the value. You want to have a written acknowledgement that includes the name and signature of the donor, date and location, what was donated, and a description of that item, what's the estimated value and how that value was determined, and whether the contribution was obtained with federal funds. Again, an ultimate best practice is to look at having a standard form to document these. However, some of your donors might write a letter, and if they meet all these requirements, that's fine. Serve Nebraska can help you with sample forms if your application is funded and you don't have one. Note, Serve Nebraska will always be your partner in compliance and assist you where they can. Another part of meeting the match can be program income. Again, generating revenue is a great sustainability strategy. AmeriCorps programs have been doing this since the early days. Some programs do this without even realizing that it's program income. Programs have really created a premium for members, demonstrating the benefits of the service that they bring to the service partners. When I have a story of looking at 3 AmeriCorps members that served in the same school. 2 of the members did not have any cost share or payment by that school. However, one of them had a placement fee that was used to help defray the operating cost and the member living allowance. And it was incredible how they treated that member, where they had to pay a fee. They ensured that they had a dedicated desk. They met with school leaders, and it really increased their success. So again, sometimes when someone has a higher perceived value, it might not only help your match, but it might help the success of your program. Program income can help strengthen and sustain your programs, but you want to make sure that you're reporting it properly. Again, program income could be fees earned by a direct result of the award funded by program activities. This can be used to offset the federal share, which is the match. And then note that any fee for service cannot benefit a for-profit entity or include prohibited activities. So 2 examples of program income could be, in the example that I gave, if you had a placement fee for placing AmeriCorps members at schools or community sites, that fee that programs would pay you for that member would be considered program income, and you need to use that as match in the program year that it's funded for. Another example could be the service of your members. It could be members serving in a outside clearing trails or clearing paths, and that those members receive funding for the work that they're doing to offset their own costs and operations. Another important part of match is federal funds as matched. Note that it must be in your approved budget, and it's also important to get the right documentation so that there's a limit here, and you want to make sure that you receive written approval from the other federal agency. So not if you have federal pass-through funds, you want to make sure that it's from an email with a .gov or someone that directly works for the federal government and not another organization. It could also be included in the annual regulations of that grant. So for instance, with AmeriCorps, you cannot use their funds as match. It's written right in the regulations. You also must report the annual amount of the federal funds and the sources. So again, if you're using funds from subgrantees or operating sites, make sure that you're aware of the federal funds. If you're a fixed award grantee, you're not required to do this report. But again, that this could be something that you want to make sure that you're working to get the proper documentation, because it can be time consuming. So again, there's your overall pieces of additional information of match.